Surviving the Andes, Episode 1. The flight that never arrived, slow, quiet. Imagine boarding a plane, thinking you'll be back home in a few days. You say goodbye to your family. You laugh with your friends. You look out the window and watch the world disappear beneath the clouds. You have absolutely no idea that you're flying toward one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. October 13th, 1972. A small chartered aircraft carrying 45 people left Uruguay. Most were young members of the Old Christians rugby team, traveling to Chile for a match. They were excited. Some were joking. Some were looking out the windows. For them, it was simply a trip. Visual. Aircraft flying above clouds. But ahead of them stood the Andes, a massive wall of mountains stretching across South America. And that day, the mountains were hidden beneath clouds. The flight crew believed they had reached a point where they could begin descending toward Santiago, Chile. But they were mistaken. The aircraft was still surrounded by mountains. Then, the clouds opened. And suddenly, a mountain appeared directly ahead. There was almost no time. The pilots tried to climb. The aircraft struck the mountain. The plane broke apart and came to rest high in the Andes. For the people who survived the crash, the nightmare had only just begun. There were injured passengers. There was almost no shelter, no way to simply walk home. And they were surrounded by enormous mountains covered in snow. The survivors gathered inside what remained of the aircraft. They searched for anything that could help them stay alive. Food, clothing, medicine, anything. But there was one thing they didn't know. The outside world was searching for them, and their location was incredibly difficult to find. The white wreckage was almost invisible against the snow. Days passed. The temperature dropped. Their food became scarce. And then, they heard something on a small radio. The search for them had been called off. The survivors were now facing a terrifying reality. Nobody was coming to find them. If they wanted to live, they would have to find a way out themselves. But they didn't know yet that the mountains were going to take even more from them. End of Episode 1 to be continued.